Hey everybody, Beardo here, and you, for the first time in, what, like 2 months, are watching Minutia Minute. Now, I'm going to preface this whole video by saying I'm not officially back yet. I'm still way behind on reading my comic books. I've had a lot of family stuff going on. We've had some family illnesses that we're dealing with, and work has literally, there's just been this enormous upheaval at my work that has taken up a ton of my spare time. So even though the Christmas season is over, I'm still deep in the thick of all kinds of non-comic book things. I haven't had enough time to read my books, haven't had enough time to really spend any time on YouTube, which really makes me sad because I really miss you guys. So the video I'm doing today is a review of one comic book that I picked up today. It's the only comic book I actually could read because it's a one-shot. It doesn't have anything to do with, current storylines going on, so that, I don't have back issues that I have to catch up on before I can read it. And it was a book that I really enjoyed. So that's why I'm doing this video. I want to just let you guys know I'm still out here, let you guys know that everything's okay, and especially thank you guys for, all the people who have PM'd me or commented. I've still got people subscribing even though I haven't done anything in a while, and it just means a lot to know that you guys are out there, because I really, really love the community, and I'm sad that I can't really be a full part of it right now, and I'm excited for the point when it won't be a problem and I can kind of get back into the thick of things. But anyway, I'm not here to be sappy. I'm here to talk about comic books. Now, I'm really excited to share this book with you guys. It's a book I was this close to not picking up. It wasn't a book I had planned on getting. I saw it on the shelf and I was like, oh, I should really get that. And I picked it up and put it down probably 3 times before I finally walked out with it. I want to do you all a favor and tell you that the $7.99 price tag on this book is probably worth it, provided that you don't have the material in this already, because this is all reprinted. There's a lot of bonus material that is probably reprinted, I don't know, but if it's stuff you don't have already, honestly, $7.99 in my opinion on this book was a steal. Really, really worth the money. And that book is The Silver Surfer. This is a collection of a 2-part miniseries by Stan Lee and none other than Moebius. And to be fair, the actual comic book is only about the first half. It's the actual comic book you're paying $7.99 for is actually only 55 pages, but the whole last chunk of this is full of supplemental material that is really, really interesting and really, really makes this worth the buy, and I'll kind of get into all of that shortly. So where do I even begin? So Moebius, he's the main reason I picked this up. Honestly, Stan Lee, you're cool, but Moebius is the man. I'm sorry. If you're not familiar with who Moebius is, if I were to name 3 or 4 artists that were the most influential on comic book graphic storytelling, we're talking Alex Raymond, we're talking Jack Kirby, and we're talking Moebius. He is that up there. And if you don't know who he is, why are you even subscribed to my channel? No, I'm just kidding. If you don't know, do some research. You want to find out about this guy. He's really cool. But yeah, so if you aren't familiar with Moebius, or you haven't read any of his work or seen his art, it's worth picking up just for that alone. If you are in it just for the story, that's another thing. This book was written in, I want to say 1988. Yeah, I think 1988, and it definitely feels its age. It's very, very heavy-handed. The 70s were a time in comics where, the academic world was noticing, hey, there's something more to funny books than, funny childhood stories. The thing about the 80s is all the people getting into the industry had read all of those, academic articles and came in with that heavy-handed thinking and, decided to very blatantly put their political, philosophical input on their stories, which is awesome. Dark Knight Returns is a great example of it. This is also a great example of it, but the thing about it was very heavy-handed, it was very blatant, and this is no exception to that rule. It reads like, the story's called Parable, to be fair, but it really reads like a morality play, and not necessarily in the best way. I don't mean that in a good way, totally. But, for as heavy-handed as it is, the artwork will just carry you through the story, and it is a very interesting story, like, to be fair. Even though it's very blatant, you know, you get where they're going with this. It has a very, you know, thoughtful message, even if it doesn't, even if it isn't necessarily thought-provoking. It feels, you know, because it kind of feels obvious, it is very thoughtful. So it has that going for it. Now, the thing, as I said, that puts this book over the top isn't the story that's inside here, it's the bonus features. I had just an absolute riot reading through this today. You have, kicking it off, a little introduction by Stan Lee. This is his words in 1988 when the book was published. So it's honestly a little bit annoying because he's very, like, patting himself on the back. And it's in that Stan Lee way, but at the same time, like, when you read the book, it doesn't live up to his hype, in my opinion, so he kind of eats his own words a little bit. And I'll just show you, I mean, just a little bit of the gorgeous artwork here as I flip through. Let's see if I can find something really juicy for you. I mean, just look at Galactus. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, the whole book is just gorgeously illustrated. Really, really great work by Moebius. And then after you get to the end of the book, you have this bonus, it's probably 10 or so pages, the making of the Silver Surfer, written by Moebius in English, and it's got some sketch work, and it has basically him going through the entire process of making this Silver Surfer book. And this was absolutely a goldmine. Anyone who's interested in, like, sort of comic book behind the scenes, how comic books are, you know, illustrated, written, lettered, you know, like artists' opinions about those sort of processes, how the collaborative effort, you know, kind of plays out behind the scenes, this will be a goldmine for you. So it starts off with kind of the story of how Stan Lee and Moebius kind of got together. It goes through how he kind of laid out the story and how he learned to work under the Marvel storytelling idea where, you know, it's just sort of a synopsis that he has to flesh out himself, which is something Moebius was not used to, which I found really interesting. It talks about how he designed the characters. That was pretty interesting. And he talks, this is really cool, he talks about having to redraw some pages and how effective simplicity is over, you know, complex art. Like, and he talks about how important it is not to, you know, fill up the page because you can and actually leave more blank than you do than otherwise. And he talks about how some of the pages he redrew were too detailed and he actually had to go back and redraw them with less detail. I found that really interesting, and that's a style of artistry that I really love. Like, you know, that I think I've talked about that in the past on this channel, but hearing the master talk about it made me really excited. Also really interesting, here's a cool, speaking of cool Moebius illustrations, there's one. He goes on, he talks about the coloring, which was really interesting because he had a whole European perspective on things and how different the coloring process is and working within the limitations of American coloring. That was super fascinating. And equally fascinating, did I mention this is fascinating, by the way? Was his whole section on the lettering, which it's a page. I mean, literally just one page. But hearing him talk about it, like, I never put as much thought into it as he did, and so, like, the stuff he says isn't necessarily groundbreaking or like, oh my god, I can't believe it, but at the same time, it got me thinking about it in a way that I hadn't before. So anyway, really, really worthwhile chunk of pages here. Like I said, at least 10 pages, written by Moebius about working on comics, and that's priceless, in my opinion. After that, you get some padding, admittedly. You've got sort of the original covers. One interesting thing, since Moebius is talking about the covers, or excuse me, he's talking about coloring, here's his original artwork with his coloring, and here's the digital recolorization of that on the front. How awful does this look? It's amazing just what modern day coloring can do to ruin an illustration. Like, if I were to look at this, I would question if it was done by Moebius even. Just, it doesn't look like his artwork somehow. And yet it's basically the same as the original artwork, except it's been completely doctored with the computer. So that's interesting to look at. It's got some sort of layouts from original publications of it. It's got, this is cool. This is like kind of a, Marvel Age was kind of like kind of like the Bleeding Cool magazine for Marvel, I think, and it has a sort of an article advertising that this book was coming up. I actually haven't read all of this yet. It's, you know, just kind of fun fluff. It's basically promoting that they're really trying to bring back Silver Surfer in a big way. And then at the end, you get a whole bunch of little posters by Moebius of various characters. So you've got the Silver Surfer one in the beginning, but you've also got Daredevil. I don't want to show you all these because some of them are, you know, to be fair, you should buy it. But there's one of Elektra, there's an Iron Man one, there's a Punisher one. I'm going to show you the Spider-Man one because that's just too cool. It's very slimy. His webbing looks really slimy. It reminds me of like a Geiger painting almost. And I also really like the Man-Thing. Just cool. Anyway, and there's more. And then at the end you get the obligatory Marvel advertising, all of the stuff that they want you to buy after this. But anyway, as I said, all in all, this is a really, really great pickup. If you didn't pick it up, you were thinking about it, I recommend you go back and do it. The story, as I said, of its time, but looked at through the lens of that time period, it's very solid and is definitely carried by gorgeous artwork by Moebius. And if you don't find the story appealing, you will find the bonus material appealing, especially the stuff by Moebius. Really great read, really worth the price. Worth the price enough that I'm coming out of exile to tell you about it. So if that says anything, go check it out. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. I can't guarantee I'll be back next week, but I will be back as soon as possible, I promise. Thank you for hanging in there, and I look forward to talking to you guys really, really soon. So anyway, I'll see you guys later. Thanks again for watching.